Hi you guys, welcome back to Bright Violet Arts. My name is Valerie and today I am setting up my bullet journal for September of 2024. I'm using a really pretty theme this month. It's kind of a vintage floral or a bohemian floral and I love it so much. It is so pretty and so intricate. But don't let that intimidate you if you want to recreate this or try something similar. This is a very achievable setup, and that's because most of the images are going to be done with a silicone stamp set. Now, I am also using a set of woodblock stamps. These are 1-inch alphabet letters. I'm using some waterproof pigment ink. I've got some decorative washi, and then these are 3 colors of highlighters that I'm going to use for the whole setup. These came from a set that I bought at Target. I will talk more about them later. I'm going to fill in my stamped images with some fine liners, and here's a look at the actual stamp set that I'm using. Now, if you have not used silicone stamps before, the way it works is I have an acrylic stamping block like such. The stamp will just cling to it. I will stamp my image and then I peel it back off. It will cling again to the plastic sheeting that it comes with. As always, my bullet journal is an A5 sized notebook from Archer and Olive. I'm going to forego my normal cover page design this month and I'm going to just go straight to the calendar. I'm cutting a Dutch door flap right there because I want to put some trackers behind the calendar, so we'll get there in a minute. But I'm going to start off by inking in the calendar boxes. So I'm going for a grid pattern for this calendar, but I did insert a blank row in between each of the weekly rows to add the dates for each day there. I'm going to stamp out the word September going vertically just because it's a very long word as months go anyway. I think it's the most letters of any month out of the year. So I'm going to just do that vertically to save space and then fill in a little extra room here with some of that decorative washi. I'm going to use a corner rounding tool to just round off those sharp corners on the Dutch door flap. And if you don't have a corner rounding punch, of course a regular pair of scissors can give you some similar results. I'm going to stamp in my major design now. This design is going to be exposed whether the Dutch door flap is open or closed. So it's kind of like one big piece of art that works for both the inside and the outside of this spread. I am going to use the pigment ink for some of the leaf designs, but when I stamped the flowers, I actually just applied the highlighters directly to the stamps, and that way I got some brighter colors. But now that my image is stamped out on the paper, I'm going to come back in with my fine liners in a variety of colors, and I'm going to start layering them over the original stamped image. So a lot of this is outlining, and sometimes I'll be coloring in areas. What's nice about these fine liners is that they actually layer up pretty well, so I can blend the colors together. You can also go right back to the original highlighters or markers that you stamped with if you want to add a lot of color at once. With a theme like this, there's a lot of room for creativity and improvisation just based on whatever supplies you might happen to have around, whether that's paint pens or gel pens or glitter pens or colored pencil. It's fun to try different combinations of unrelated supplies to see how they pair and what kind of unique look you can get by mixing and matching. An example of that mixing and matching, I'm going to show you right here. I'm going to take a gold metallic paint pen and add different sizes of dots just randomly in the negative space of this pattern. That's going to just add a little bit of shine and a little texture, both of which I think really elevate the overall finished design. So I want to tell you a little bit about these highlighters. Like I said, I got them from Target. I'm using them here to add a color gradient stripe. I'm just going from lightest to darkest and overlapping them a little bit with each stripe. But the highlighters themselves, they came from Target, like I said. I got a 10-pack, and I think they are retailing right now on the Target website for $7.99. That is, of course, in the US. I don't know what their international availability is like. The brand is Altitude, and I am going to link them in the description box if you want to check them out. I really do recommend them. They're pretty good, especially for the price, yeah, in terms of the muted color selection and the cute little, like the novel body design. I like the little squared off design. And this is kind of a small detail, but the cap has the most satisfying click sound when it closes. It's great. If you like stationery, you will like these highlighters. But getting back to the time lapse, I am flipping over to the inside of my Dutch door flap, and I'm setting up a place for my monthly tasks and my habit tracking. So again, I've used my highlighter just directly on the stamps to stamp out these mini calendars, but I used the lighter pink shade and it wasn't dark enough, so I had to use a fine liner to go in over the stamp and ink in the numbers. But I actually love the look of it, and it was really fast to do since I had the proportions of the numbers already stamped out for me. I just went right over the top. For my quote this month, I'm actually using a song lyric that I thought was really nice. I heard that people don't change, they grow. It is from the song Glass House, and the artist is Joe P. It has just been stuck in my head for like a month, so it seemed like the perfect choice for a quote or a lyric for this particular setup. I did add one more big embellishment to the calendar, and that is the notes area here. I decided to add some additional flowers, and I deviated from the stamps just a little bit so I could freehand in some leaves that were more of the shape that I needed for this narrow column, so that I could still leave room to actually write some notes, which, you know, is the primary function. The botanical stamp set that I'm using today unfortunately is no longer available because it's several years old, and it came from Archer and Olive. And if you're familiar with them, you know that most of their products are done in limited runs. So you kind of got to get them while the getting's good. But no worries, because I did shop around on Amazon, and I found some similar stamp sets that you guys might be interested in if you did want to recreate a theme or, you know, do something similar to this. I found some options that you can take a look at to see what's still available. Moving on to the next spread, this is going to be my mood and productivity tracker for the month. And I have used the rest of the highlighters from my Target 10-pack to color code my dominant moods. Basically, you know, just some emotions that I want to select as being the most prominent mood of the day. I'm not going to mess with like multiple moods in a single day. I'm just going to pick one mood that sums up the day, and I'm going to do a little stripe vertically above each date's number there in the graph. And then over top of that, I'm going to do like I'm going to plot dots for a self-assessed score for my productivity. There's no hard and fast rule on how I calculate the productivity. I'm just going to give myself a score on a scale of 1 to 10 based on, you know, approximately how productive I was that day. And I like to think about how many tasks did I complete from my daily bullet journal list. You know, if I got most everything done, that's obviously going to be like a pretty high score. So I will plot that over the top of the colored bars that I have for the mood. And it should be a really nice looking graph when it's done. And I should also be able to take a look at it and see trends and see correlation between the productivity and the mood. You know, perhaps if such a correlation exists, we will find out. And again, looking back at the time lapse, this was one of my favorite moments of coloring in these stamps. I love the look of layering up the different fine liners and the different colors on these flowers. I was able to get some really pretty details by just, you know, adding one layer over top of another. A word of caution though, it is very important to let the first layer of fine liner dry before you add a layer on top of it, because if you try to add too much fine liner on the paper before it's dry, the wet paper will peel up and stick to your fine liner, and it damages the paper. It's a mess. So just be patient and let it dry in between layers. And now we are moving on to the first weekly spread of the month. My calendars are a Monday start, and a typical weekly spread for me is going to have 6 boxes, Monday through Friday, plus a shared box for Saturday and Sunday both. However, because September starts on a Sunday this year, I had this extra day kind of like out there by itself without a week to belong to. So I just added an extra daily box to my first weekly layout. As I'm working through this first weekly setup, it's a good time to mention just a couple housekeeping items. One is very fun. I want to just give a shout out to my viewer, Jaren Jimerson, and I certainly hope that I'm pronouncing that correctly. But anyway, Jaren had responded last month when I requested input in the comments regarding any specific video topics or specific tutorials that you might want to see me put up on this channel. And Jaren had responded with the suggestion of a desert doodles video, and that calls back to a theme I did in September of 2023, but there was an issue with my footage that month, and I don't have the steps of the artwork on my plan with me for that month. So I'm going to go ahead and revisit those doodles and put together a tutorial based on, how to do desert plants, desert landscapes, desert skies, as they would be appropriate for bullet journal. So stay tuned for that. Of course, hit subscribe if you are not already, just so you don't miss it if that is of interest to you. And a reminder that if you are looking to make an Archer and Olive purchase, I am an A&O affiliate, and you can get 10% off your purchase at checkout with my discount code, which is Bright Violet Arts 10, and that will be in the description box as well. It is hard for me to believe that it's already September, but what that means is that spooky season is almost upon us. In the bullet journaling world, October is a big deal, and I would love to hear your suggestions in the comments for any theme ideas that you would like to see me try for October, preferably something spooky. Let me know. I can't wait to see what you guys are thinking. My theme last year was witches, and I really enjoyed it. I went all out on the illustration. That was one that was also a viewer suggestion in the comments when I asked for October themes last year. So anyway, can't wait to see what ideas you have for this year. So right now I want to go back to the time lapse real quick. I want to point out how lightly the ink stamps for the leaves, like the brown ink. That is because my ink pad is almost dried out. It actually works out great for this theme because I'm going over this ink with fine liners, so I don't want the ink to be super dark. If you are using an ink pad that is newer and is at full strength, if it's inking and stamping in an opaque way, just blot it off by stamping 2 or 3 times on some scratch paper. And then by the time you stamp your final stamp into your notebook, you should be working with something that is light enough that you can cover over it with whatever other medium that you have chosen to use. In the area designated for notes on this weekly spread, I decided to go ahead and embellish it with flowers and leaves again, just like I did on the calendar page in that notes area. And I think this is my favorite part of the whole setup, is that little spray of flowers there. I think they look very, very vintage and very sweet. For weeks 3 and 4, I set up very similar weekly spreads. Because the technique was so much the same, I just set those up off camera, and here's a look at how they turned out. Let's take a look back at the complete September setup in a final flip through. Don't forget to click the like button if you enjoyed today's video, and subscribe, of course, if you want to see more inspirational journal content like this. I hope that today's video gave you some kind of inspiration or idea for your own bullet journal, whether that's on design or technique or function. If you do recreate this theme or any of my other past themes, if you would like to share those with me, you can tag me on Instagram. I'm over there at Bright Violet Arts. Instagram is also the place to find more of my bullet journal as well as my other artwork, including painting and illustration. If you have any feedback or questions stemming from today's video, feel free to let me know in the comments. Also, if you have any suggestions for future video topics or tutorials that you'd like to see, then I would definitely love to know about those too. Thank you again so much for checking out the video today, and thanks for checking out Bright Violet Arts. I will see you guys again soon with another video, but until then, I hope you have a great September and happy journaling.